Welcome back. Moving on, Sunil, what's our next story?
It's about the Bay Area India TB initiative. They've got a good grant of $150,000 by the Indo-US Science and Technology Forum to help find novel drugs to fight TB. Nitya, it's so unfortunate, even though we are now a growing country, not that we are still a first world country, but the fact is India suffers more than 20% of global disease burden. TB disproportionately affects the poor because of their circumstances, right, but it also attacks people with weakened immune systems, including smokers, cancer patients,
and the elderly people. Yes.
Right. And this Indo-US Science and Technology Forum is created between the two countries to find such opportunities, such platforms who can contribute to fight against such causes. Have given $150,000 to the Bay Area India TB initiative, and the grant officially awarded on August 30 is actually effective for 2 years, and the amount is over 150,000. As I told you, Dr. Tamina Madan, who is the executive director, talked about it. And I think even though this amount is so small for the size of this disease as it happens in our country, in India, but at least it will make some difference. It will bring.
It will. Every step helps, and the more these kind of initiatives are taken, the better the chance we see for the eradication of these kind of disease, which should have been long gone, actually.
And this is just a very small seed money. And as they say that for the first 5 years, the initiative will be led by the academics.
Right.
And then they are already forming good partnerships with biotech and pharmaceutical companies to ensure then as we go forward, there are real cures found out, and the seed money is put to real good cause, good practice. I think it's incredible this kind of acts are taken, and the health issues of India, especially, or the third world, are taken care of.
Right.
Our own favorite president, one of the best India has ever seen, APJ, as they call him, APJ Abdul Kalam Azad, was here in Houston. I think in last 2 years, I must have seen him coming to US for at least 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
He was here for API.
Right.
And he's really the favorite of the masses, and the NRIs, as I would call them. And he continues to inspire every single person he addresses, even if it's a small forum or a bigger forum. He always gives his own story, because keep in mind that he comes from a very, very poor family, and he says when he was only 10, he just talks, he just captures the moment here. He was 10 years old, and his teacher Siva Subramaniam took him to the seashore and showed him a bird who was taking off and flying.
Right.
How beautifully he brings in a parallel. He says that inspired me to take my own flight, which means everybody can take their own flight and go where they want to go. And he said what he ended up doing was he studied physics and became an aeronautical engineer. Of course, rest of it is a history. Eventually, the climax of his life was that he was one of the best presidents India has ever seen, and obviously
absolutely
the nuclear defense systems that he created. I think his main message is all that we must have education, a primary education. In India, everybody must get education, which he says almost if it could be free, so that people should not say I can't afford it, so right, I can't get educated. And I think we as India today can afford it, as we have seen what this education has done to our country, because India today offers the largest workforce of educated almost 55 crores, 500 million people who are at least, if not high school.
He emphasizes the need for primary education more than anything else, so making the roots strong as you grow.
Right. So Nitya, moving on to the entertainment segment.
From one magnetic personality to the next, we have our own Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, and finally it's happening. He gets to star in a Hollywood production that also Baz Luhrmann's very own The Great Gatsby. It's his adaptation of the great novel, which was done by Scott Fitzgerald. It's been hailed as a classic. And there have been 4 such adaptations of this novel so far. But not only is Mr. Bachchan starring in this, he's also starring in it with very impressive stars like Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, or Spider-Man as I like to call him, and Carey Mulligan, and it also features certain newcomers. So we wish him all the very best. I'm sure Mr. B is going to do wonders to this, as he has done in Bollywood.
Tell me honestly, are you his big fan?
I have always been.
I can see those lights in your eyes when you're talking about him.
Right.
And it seems that you will be certainly auditioning for a part in this movie.
I wish.
So, but certainly even at this age when he is, I think, 68 years old, the man is going from places to places, setting up new examples. And I think he may have been under a lot of pressure because a lot of Indian movie stars have broken into the Hollywood and done very well. For him, it's just one day to accept it. The day he accepts that he'll do a Hollywood movie, he'll definitely excel. There's no question about it.
He's in a league by himself, and he always has been.
Yeah, and we have now our own Archie Punjabi, the Emmy Award-winning actress. She has agreed to be the ambassador of Pratham USA. I'm sure you know about this fantastic non-profit organization called Pratham, and they've been in the frontline leadership, which is essentially their mandate is to help educate India's unprivileged children. Once again, we're talking about education, the underprivileged, to groom the next generation, like we were talking about Dr. Abdul Kalam Azad. And I think it's a noble cause Archie Punjabi has taken it, even though she claims to be half Indian and half British, which is, kind of her emotional bond with the country. But I think she sees beyond the boundaries.
Right.
Whether she's a British or whether she's an Indian or a half and half, the bottom line is she has agreed to be the ambassador to Pratham. And when such luminaries and celebrities get attached to such not-for-profit organization, it gives them a higher level of visibility.
Definitely.
And whenever they do their fundraisers or they do their events, there is obviously a larger draw, and they can do better than under normal circumstances, even though Pratham itself has been doing extraordinary in the last 10-15 years.
Absolutely.
They've been able to get a lot of funding from different sources. But we really appreciate Archie Punjabi's gesture.
Absolutely.
And now we have our own Talat Aziz. Have you heard him ever?
Yes. My husband's a big fan.
Of Talat Aziz,
yes.
Yeah. He's, even though he's a great singer, ghazal singer, but he's a very good-looking guy. He's tall, very handsome. I think, did he work in some movie?
I'm not too sure about that, but the way he looks, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think whether he did a part or somehow it comes to my mind, and we'll probably connect with him next week when he comes live onto the show. Talat Aziz is doing a tour of North America.
Right.
Under the well-known famous group Sare Gama, which is headed by our own friend Mr. Ramji. And they are taking Talat Aziz all over the country. I think he already finished a couple of shows, and now he's in Chicago today, then he moves on to Bay Area, then he'll be back to New York again. And the angle here is Talat Aziz is presenting the magic of the ultimate Mr. Mehndi Hasan.
Right.
I think it's an extraordinary tribute to Mehndi Hasan, who obviously cannot sing as much as he would have wanted to at this stage in his life. But I think Mehndi Hasan, who is one of the topmost singers ever the subcontinent has seen, he in his own words says about his disciple, his voice quality is excellent, and whenever he has sung my ghazals, he has sung them well. I think even though this is such a short sentence about Talat Aziz,
it speaks volumes.
Right. And coming especially from somebody as big as Mr. Mehndi Hasan, he should be very happy, and I'm sure it encourages him to do better and better from show to show. And we would hope that we would be able to bring him into the studio to host him and know more about his plans going ahead from here.
And what is more interesting is the fact that it's these kind of disciples who bring the music forward. They keep the music alive so that people right now and in the generations coming know about exceptional music like Mr. Hasan's music.
And he has already celebrated his 25th Silver Jubilee anniversary.
Right.
And that was in 2004. And he did a huge event in NCPA Museum in Bombay. I guess NCPA in Bombay, and where almost I think everybody, whether you talk about Lata Mangeshkar, you talk about Asha Bhosle, everybody was present there. He has a tremendous goodwill in the in the music fraternity.
He commands a lot of respect.
As well as
That's right.
the audiences who would be obviously looking forward to his show. He's coming after quite some time this time.
Right.
And like I said, once again, we'll hope that we can bring him to the studio.
Absolutely.
And have a quick chat with him next week.
Definitely.
And the last story, which is the shining part of the last week that it was, I think it was a week ago or
The
10
week
days
before
ago.
that, right.
The long month of Ramadan, which was celebrated with joy, with what in the Muslim community they call the Chand Raat, because everything is woven around the moon. And the terminology they use is called Chand Raat, and there were events obviously all over the country. You had New Jersey, you had Washington DC, you had in New York, and some people celebrated in Fremont, and they called it a cake bake sale by a group of kids, and essentially it was to raise funds.
Now it's an organization of these kids. They are called Buddies Without Borders.
Wow, what a name.
Absolutely.
It's called, what is it called? Buddies
Without Borders.
It's an unbelievable group, and the cause this time they had taken was about the 1.4 million people in Pakistan who had hurt because of the
floods in 2010.
And these kids, even though when you look at the money they raised in one night was only $1,800, but the most important part was they had a beautiful song which is called Dil Dil Pakistan.
Yes, it was
very
well
received.
received.
If you can get it on the YouTube. It's a beautiful song, because I recall this song was so popular that the famous cricketer who's turned a politician, Imran Khan, he hosted a stadium full of kids.
And showed it to them, right.
I mean, that could be a mesmerizing view.
Absolutely.
So, you know, this is the kind of celebration and the festivity which can inspire the next generation. Like I said, even though they were only raising $1,800, but the idea was here to raise funds for the people who suffered from the floods in Pakistan. And in fact, last year, the same organization, BWB, collaborated with Mr. Imran Khan's foundation, and they raised that time in December almost $133,000.
Right.
Which is huge. I think that money is certainly huge, and from some count they say at $500 they can feed a full camp for a day. So with $1,800 they could at least feed 3 camps for a day, or
Definitely.
4 camps for a day, or maybe a camp for 4 days. But the thought process behind it, which is the climax or the last day or the finale of this long holy month of Ramadan in August, which ended up in Chand Raat. We hope there are more Chand Raats, but not necessarily requiring for 1 month of fasting. Right. And good feeling, sharing, caring, love, affection, and taking care of the poor and downtrodden.
Needy. Yes, it is even more heartening when you see the younger generation do this, because it teaches them to reach out to help anyone in need.
Right. So with that, Nithya, we have today's all top stories that we wanted to bring it to our audience.
Right.
And we look forward to another week.
So that's it for this week, Sunil. We're going to come back next week as well. Thank you for watching us on Eye on South Asia. I am Nithya Karthik.
And I'm Sunil Hali. Keep us watching on Crossings TV, Eye on South Asia, on Time Warner, as well as Comcast, and as well as on YouTube. Tell your friends to watch it. Eye on South Asia. See you next week.
See you.